When I burst into the boardroom with 2 suitcases of my husband's belongings, I hadn't planned on making a spectacle. But sometimes karma needs a little nudge. The silence in the conference room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. 28 pairs of eyes darted between me, standing in the doorway with 2 Louis leather suitcases, and the 22-year-old intern who'd been sleeping with my husband for the past 8 months. I hadn't intended to crash the monthly strategic planning meeting, but fate, like karma, has a wicked sense of humor. "Delivery for Clark," I announced, my voice steady despite the earthquake raging in my chest. "I assume these belong to you now." I'll never forget the way the color drained from her face. That perfect, Instagram-filtered face that had smiled so innocently at me during the company Christmas party, while she secretly texted my husband under the table. I watched her flawless French manicure, the one I'd paid for through his credit card, tremble as she gripped the edge of the conference table. Michael, of course, wasn't there. Regional sales directors always had important client meetings on Thursday afternoons. Only his important meeting, for the last 8 months, had been at the 2 blocks from the office, always booked on the corporate account. Because he was either that careless or that arrogant. "Excuse me, who are you?" The CEO finally broke the silence, his pen frozen midair. I smiled, not the broken smile of a betrayed wife, but the calculated smile of a woman who'd reached her limit. "I'm Sterling, Michael's wife, or rather his soon-to-be ex-wife," I said, rolling the luggage further into the room. "I just thought, since so fond of my husband, she might like his things too." Someone in the back let out a muffled, "Oh my God." But I kept my eyes locked on. Her shame wasn't even the best part. The best part was watching the realization dawn on her face that her carefully curated future, the one where she slept her way into a marriage with a C-suite exec, was crumbling in real time before the entire senior leadership team. I wasn't always like this. The of 3 weeks ago would collapsed into a heap of tears and self-doubt. That died the night I found their texts. It was how I found out. A notification popping up on his iPad while he was in the shower. "Can't wait to taste you again tomorrow." I remember staring at those words, my brain refusing to process them. This wasn't supposed to happen to us. We had the waterfront condo, the country club membership, plans for kids next year once his promotion went through. 17 years together, 7 years married, 4 years of fertility treatments I endured while he worked late. The math of betrayal is always so precise in hindsight. "Mrs. Sterling," the HR director started, rising from her seat, "I think there's been some misunderstanding." But I cut her off with a raised hand. "No misunderstanding. I have all the evidence right here." I patted my purse, where I'd stashed printed screenshots, hotel receipts, and GPS history I'd pulled from his car's navigation system. I just wanted to personally deliver what belongs to. I unzipped the first suitcase. Right on top was his favorite cashmere sweater, the gray one I'd given him last Christmas. I lifted it and tossed it to her. She caught it reflexively, horror spreading across her face. "He likes when you scratch his back while he's wearing it. Light touches, not nails. He's sensitive about scratches showing at the gym." Someone in the room stifled a laugh, probably the CFO. I wasn't done. I reached into the suitcase again and pulled out his shaving kit. "He needs his special face cream every night, or he gets cranky. Expensive stuff from Switzerland." I tossed it across the table, where it slid to a stop right in front of her. "Oh, and he's allergic to shellfish, breaks out in hives all over. But you probably know that already from all those intimate dinners while I was visiting my dying mother in the hospital." The room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. I watched throat tighten as she tried to swallow. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an exit for sympathy for anything. She found nothing. She finally whispered, "Oh, we're on a first-name basis now. How sweet." I tilted my head. "You know what's funny? All those nights he told me he was mentoring you. She's got so much potential," he said. I was even proud of him for championing women in business. I laughed, but there was no humor in it, just the hollow echo of a woman who discovered her entire reality was built on quicksand. The second suitcase has all his toiletries, medications. He's got high blood pressure, by the way, so be careful during exciting moments, and his watch collection. There was an anniversary gift from me, but clearly sentimentality means nothing to him, so why should it mean anything to me? I stepped back from the luggage and adjusted my blazer. The expensive one I'd bought for partner meetings at my own firm. The one that made me feel powerful even when my world was falling apart. I also took the liberty of forwarding all the receipts where corporate funds were used for your little trysts to your compliance department. The gifts, dinners, all on the company card. I'm guessing that violates a few corporate policies. Mascara started to run, black tears streaking down her flushed cheeks. Good. Let her cry. Let her feel a fraction of what I felt when I realized the man I'd built my life around was building a separate one behind my back. You can't just, this is a workplace, she stammered. So was my marriage, I replied coolly. Or at least it was supposed to be a partnership, but Michael decided to invest elsewhere. Now he can enjoy the returns. As I turned to leave, the weight of what I'd just done hit me like a physical force. My knees nearly buckled, but 17 years with Michael had taught me one thing: never show weakness in public. So I straightened my spine, squared my shoulders, and walked out with every ounce of dignity I could muster. The glass door closed behind me with a satisfying click, sealing with her humiliation and my husband's belongings. Only when I reached my car in the underground garage did I let myself feel. The steering wheel caught my forehead as I slumped forward, finally releasing the sobs that had been building since the morning I packed his bags. They rolled through me like seismic waves, each one threatening to tear me apart from the inside. This wasn't how our story was supposed to end. Their affair had started, as far as I could tell, shortly after joining the company as a marketing intern. She was bright, ambitious, and 15 years my junior. I'd met her at the company picnic last summer and thought she seemed sweet. I even told Michael to look out for her, to mentor her, the way others had mentored him. Mentor her. The irony made me laugh through my tears, a broken sound that echoed in my empty car. The signs had always been there. Late nights, urgent weekend office trips, a sudden passion for fitness that had him at the gym at odd hours, a new cologne I hadn't bought, the way he guarded his phone like it held state secrets. But I was too busy holding our life together to see it falling apart. Between my caseload at the firm, the hormone treatments, caring for my mom in her final months of cancer, and keeping up our social calendar, I didn't have the energy to be suspicious. What a fool I'd been. 2 weeks earlier, my mom had finally found peace after a long battle with cancer. The house felt emptier without the constant coming and going of hospice nurses, without the steady hum of oxygen machines. Michael had been supportive during her illness, if you count showing up to occasional family dinners and asking how she was before pivoting to work talk. The night after her funeral, I expected him to hold me, to comfort me. Instead, he claimed an urgent client meeting and left me alone with my grief. That was the night I found the messages. As if losing my mom wasn't enough, I had to lose my husband the same day. I scrolled through months of their texts, each one a knife twisting deeper. The things he said to her, the promises, the fantasies, the complaints about me and our marriage. He told her I was emotionally unavailable, that I was obsessed with getting pregnant, that our marriage had been dead for years. All while I was injecting myself with hormones every night, bruising my stomach and enduring mood swings, bloating, hope, and crushing disappointment, all for our future. All while I held my mom's hand as cancer took her piece by piece. All while I kept our household running, fulfilled our social obligations, kept our finances in order. The messages were physical proof of every moment he'd lied to my face. Every, I love you, that meant nothing. Every plan for the future that was never meant to happen. You're the only woman who really gets me, he wrote to her. When can I have all of you? She replied. Soon, he promised. I'm just waiting for the right time. The right time, as if there's ever a right time to blow up someone's life. I confronted him, of course, that night when he finally came home, reeking of her perfume and hotel soap. His face when he saw me sitting in the dark living room, his iPad glowing with their messages. I'll never forget it. Not shock, not even guilt, just annoyance at being caught. "It's not what you think," he said automatically. The classic line of every cheater in history. "Really? Because I think you've been sleeping with your intern while I was caring for my dying mother and trying to conceive your child. Please, tell me how that's not exactly what I think." He switched tactics immediately. "You haven't been present in this marriage for years. What did you expect?" That's when I knew we were truly done. Not just because he betrayed me, but because he tried to make it my fault. As if my grief, my desire for children, my career ambitions somehow drove development, I didn't take the bait. I'd spent too many years being the reasonable one, smoothing over his edges, making excuses for his absences. No more. "Get out," I told him, my voice deadly quiet. "This is my house too," he protested. "The house I pay the mortgage on. The house titled in my name because your credit was too poor when we bought it. That house." He slept in the guest room that night and the next. We existed in icy silence for days, two strangers sharing a space that used to be filled with love, or what I thought was love. "We need to talk about this rationally," he finally said over breakfast 3 days later. "People make mistakes. Marriages survive infidelity all the time." I looked at him across our kitchen island. This man I'd loved for 17 years, this stranger who could betray me so completely and then expect forgiveness as his due. "You're right," I said calmly. "We do need to talk rationally." He looked relieved. He thought I was going to take him back. "I've already contacted a divorce attorney. You'll hear from them soon. In the meantime, I need you out of the house by tomorrow." His face contorted in disbelief. "You can't be serious. Where am I supposed to go?" I shrugged. "I don't know, Michael. Maybe has room in her studio apartment, or maybe one of the other women you've been with can take you in." His face told me I'd hit a nerve. There had been others before. Of course there had. "Be reasonable." "I am reasonable. In fact, I'll help you pack." That night, after Michael retreated to the guest room again, I sat alone in our bedroom and made a plan. If there's one thing being a corporate attorney teaches you, it's how to strategize when everything's falling apart. First, I secured my finances. Joint accounts were drained, funds moved to my personal account. Not all of it, just my fair share. I wasn't going to steal from him, but I wasn't going to stay vulnerable either. I changed the passwords on all our shared online accounts, from Netflix to utilities. I called our credit card companies and removed him as an authorized user. Then came the evidence gathering. I already had screenshots of their messages, but I needed more. I contacted a private investigator I knew from work, Rachel, a former detective who specialized in infidelity cases. "I don't need proof he's cheating," I told her over coffee the next morning. "I need proof he used corporate resources to facilitate it." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Going for the professional jugular, I like it." "He made it professional when he chose his subordinate," I replied. "I'm just following through on the consequences." Within 2 days, Rachel delivered a comprehensive dossier. Hotel charges on the corporate card. Expensive dinners labeled as client meetings, with no clients present. Company car usage logs that lined up with their trysts. Even a company-sponsored conference in Chicago, where was added to the attendee list at the last minute with no business justification for her presence. It was more than enough to violate the company's ethics policy and anti-fraternization rules, which Michael himself had helped draft as part of the executive committee. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. But I wasn't done. While Michael was at work, I methodically went through his home office. In his desk drawer, I found a small velvet box. Inside was a pair of diamond earrings I'd never seen. The receipt was tucked underneath 4200, purchased just 3 weeks ago. My birthday was months away, and our anniversary had passed without such a gift for me. They were for her, bought while my mother was dying. I put the earrings in my jewelry box. They weren't going to adorn ears, That was for damn sure. In the same drawer, I found something even more valuable, a USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop and discovered it contained sensitive company information. Strategic documents, financial projections, personnel files. Things Michael had no business keeping at home, especially given the industry's compliance regulations. I the contents before returning the drive exactly where I found it. Insurance, in case things went south. By the third day of my investigation, I had enough evidence to sink both his marriage and his career. But I wasn't out to destroy him professionally. Not yet, at least. That depended on how he handled the divorce. What I wanted first was for them both to face the social consequences of their actions, the public humiliation they deserved, the office gossip that would follow them long after I was out of their lives. That's when I decided to deliver the suitcases. The morning of, I woke up calm, eerily calm. I took extra time with my appearance, my most expensive suit, professional makeup, hair styled to perfection. If I was going to make a scene they'd remember for years, I was going to look damn good doing it. I packed his suitcases methodically, everything neatly folded, organized. His most prized possessions, things it would hurt to lose. The watch collection, the signed baseball from his favorite player, the custom suits, the rare scotch. I was thorough. This wasn't going to be a half measure. As I zipped up the second suitcase, a strange sense of peace settled over me. For the first time since discovering the affair, I wasn't just reacting. I was acting. I was taking control of my narrative. On the drive to his office building, I rehearsed every possible scenario. What if security stopped me? What if wasn't there? What if Michael showed up to the meeting unexpectedly? But deep down, I knew it would work. Because people like Michael and people who think they can take what they want without consequences never expect to be called out. They rely on the social contract, on the assumption that others will avoid confrontation to keep the peace. I was done keeping the peace. In the elevator on the way down, my phone buzzed again. Not Michael this time, but my divorce attorney. "Done," I texted her, exactly as we discussed. "Perfect," she replied. "That should make negotiations much smoother." By the time I reached my car, the adrenaline was fatting. My hands shook slightly as I put the key in the ignition. I'd done it. I'd confronted them both. I'd refused to be the silent, suffering wife. I caught my reflection in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Not because I looked different, but because I felt different. Lighter, clearer, like I'd shed a skin-eyed. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "How could you humiliate me like that? You've ruined everything. S." I deleted it without responding. She wasn't worth my time or energy anymore. Neither was he. Instead, I drove to the waterfront park where Michael had proposed all those years ago. I sat on a bench facing the ocean and watched the waves crash against the shore. Each one pulled back, only to gather strength and return again and again. Unstoppable, like me. A year later, I stood in my new kitchen, morning sunlight streaming through windows that faced east instead of west. A different view, a different life. Better in ways I couldn't have imagined that day I rolled suitcases into the boardroom and changed everything. The fallout had been swift and sweeping. Michael was fired for ethics violations that same day, was reassigned to another department, then quietly let go 3 months later during a restructuring. The divorce was finalized in record time. Michael's attorney advised him to agree to my terms rather than risk further exposure of his behavior. I sold the waterfront condo, too many ghosts there, and bought a charming house in a suburban neighborhood with a garden I started tending myself. It was therapeutic, digging in the dirt, planting seeds, watching something new grow where nothing had been before. Like me, the garden was in the process of rebirth. I threw myself back into my legal practice with renewed energy. My firm thrived, and I took on a few high-profile cases that caught attention in professional circles. Clients started coming to me not just for my legal skills, but for my reputation as a woman who didn't back down. My story, it seemed, had spread in certain circles, and to my surprise, it didn't invite judgment. Instead, women, and even some men, approached me at conferences to quietly thank me for standing up. I'd become a symbol for them, though I'd never intended to be. As for Michael, I heard he'd moved to another state, trying to start over. His career took a hit, and from what I gathered, he was struggling to find work at the same level. I learned through a former colleague, had left town and pivoted to a career as a travel influencer. Her social media posts were full of staged smiles and exotic backdrops, but I noticed an emptiness in her eyes in every photo. Maybe it was my imagination, but it felt like she was carrying the consequences too. I didn't take pride in destroying their lives, but I didn't regret it either. They made their choices, and I made mine. My revenge wasn't about ruining them, it was about reclaiming my power, and I did. In my personal life, I started opening up to new possibilities. I wasn't looking for love, not yet, but I began reconnecting with friends I'd sidelined for years to prioritize Michael and our life. I picked up yoga again, started morning runs, and even signed up for a pottery class just to try something new. I was learning to be not just someone's wife. One morning, over coffee in my new home, I got an email from Rachel, the private investigator. She'd attached a photo from some corporate event. It was Michael, looking older and worn, standing next to a woman who was, unsurprisingly, younger. But there was something predatory in her eyes that made me smirk. He hadn't changed, but that wasn't my problem anymore. I closed the laptop and stepped into my garden, where my roses were just starting to bloom. I breathed in their scent, feeling the sun's warmth on my skin. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about the past. I was thinking about the future, my future. I was free, and damn, that felt good.